I thank the honourable member for Bendigo. The question is that this bill be now read a second time, and I call the honourable member for Ryan.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. And just for something completely different, I'm going to talk about the bill in front of the House. I rise today to speak on the Coalition Government's continued commitment to good governance. The Telecommunications Legislation Amendment Deregulation Bill 2014 is not just about making changes for the sake of it, but it tells the story of a government on top of the issues of the day. One of the most popular and successful programs implemented by the Howard government was the Do Not Call register. As you no doubt know, Mr Deputy Speaker, this register allowed people to effectively bar their phone numbers, both landline and mobile, from being called by telemarketers, with a couple of exceptions. And how do we know this is a successful program? Well, the numbers speak for themselves. 7.3 million individuals have registered 9.4 million phone numbers on the Do Not Call register. That equates to 95% of households in Australia. Australians have certainly endorsed this program by their participation. To allow for the mobility of the population, numbers on the register were scheduled to expire after 3 years and then needed to be re-registered. In 2010, 2012 and 2013, this period was extended through amendments to the Act, but not by careful consideration of available options for the longevity of the program. However, that extension granted in 2013 is due to expire in June next year. The Abbott government is doing the right and responsible thing and seeking the option which will continue to drive this very popular program. Minister Turnbull has examined the 4 options presented to him and made a determination that once a telephone number is listed, it will now stay on the register unless the account holder of that number applies to have that number removed. This makes good sense because, unlike 20 years ago, our telephone numbers are now much more portable. Local number portability means you can keep the same phone number if you change provider. Location portability means you can keep the same number if you move within the same geographic area, and mobile phone numbers are able to be ported between providers. Not that long ago, you needed a new number if you moved to the other side of your suburb. What this means for the Do Not Call register is that telephone numbers are becoming more stable. The need to clean or wash the register is not as strong as it used to be. Therefore, making registration of a number a one-time only affair makes sense. It also saves a lot of time, money and angst. This bill also abolishes the Telecommunications Universal Service Management Agency and moves its responsibilities to the Department of Communications. This fulfils our government's commitment made in the 2014 budget. Due to the abolition of the Telecommunications Universal Service Management Agency, known locally as TUSMA, the government will move responsibility for the collection of the telecommunications industry level from TUSMA to the Telecommunications Consumer Protection Service Standards Act 1999. This change also includes responsibilities for the Universal Service Obligations, USO, to be monitored under this Act. The aim of these changes is to lessen the burden of compliance for business and cut through more red tape. And more importantly, Mr Deputy Speaker, the industry levy that needs to be paid to support the operations of TUSMA will now be $1 million less, thereby keeping pressure off prices. This bill reduces the regulatory burden of telecommunications legislation through amendments to the Do Not Call Register Act 2006, the Telecommunications Act 1997 and the Telecommunications Consumer Protection and Services Standards Act 1999. This will lower the cost burden on business and consumers by $6.9 million a year while maintaining necessary consumer safeguards. This bill honours the Coalition Government's promise to reduce costs and reduce red tape. That has been strangling business for too long. The $7.9 million saved in this bill alone is enough to create 131 new jobs. At $60,000 a year, the $2.1 billion saved over the other appeal days equates to 35,000 jobs at $60,000 a year, or nearly double the minimum wage. There are 35,000 reasons these repeal days are vitally important. Not the jobs themselves, but the dignity and pride that comes with them. As we know, the best form of welfare is a job, not just for the money they provide, but also for the sense of achievement they bring. Mr Deputy Speaker, I wish to congratulate the Minister for cutting the red tape in his area of responsibility and note, without surprise, that much of it comes from the Labor-Greens alliance time in government. This bill is not solely about technology surpassing the legislation, but about repealing what was simply bad legislation. I support this bill and commend it to the House.
I thank the honourable member.